Good evening, everybody. And evidently, I broke one of my own rules. I accidentally said that the Canadiens weren't a four-game heater last night. They weren't. They were going to be if they won tonight, but then again, they didn't. The Dallas Stars come out with a 2-1 win in a shootout over your Montreal Canadiens. Let's get to it. Yes, I'm blaming myself, everybody. Welcome to Montreal Hockey Talk. I am, of course, Kosta. Thanking you all for being here. And, it's a mistake. I honestly thought I totally forgot the Chicago, Vancouver, and Washington games were not in sequence. I messed up. I apologize. It's on me, but maybe it isn't. Because after all, isn't it always the way that the Montreal Canadiens tend to lose when the Molson Cup's on the ice? I'll get to that a little bit later. We'll talk about it. Maybe joke around a little bit because it's always a fun time to have when we talk about stupid curses and shit. But let's get to the hockey game. And it was kind of a tale of two different teams as far as I saw. Because the Canadiens came out a little bit soft and slow in the first period. Dallas seemed to dictate the pace early. Of course, we had that stupid 4-minute penalty on Josh Anderson, which led to nothing eventually. But the Dallas Stars did have a huge shot advantage in the first period. And yes, I'm going to say it, thanks to Sam Montembault, that game came out 0-0. And that's not to say I'm not going to shit on Monty later because you know me. But you know what? Credit where credit is due. Sam Montembault was the reason why this hockey game was even close. The Canadiens didn't have their game legs. They did seem to show a little bit of life in the second period, but they ended that with just, a lack of legs on the ice. And so, you get Patrick Laine back into the lineup. He scores a power play goal, his ninth straight to open up his career with the Montreal Canadiens. Never seen that before, probably never will. And it was a shot that deflected in on Latushkin, and I believe it got him in the shin. But, and then Latushkin, what does he do? He claps a slapper off a faceoff, and he takes out the linesman Gauthier, and Michel Gauthier. And so, that was the story of that, and it was a no-brainer. Like, he clapped it and got him square in the leg, and he went down like a sack of what. But it's nothing to laugh at. You never want to see the officials get hurt, but boy, oh boy, was it just bad timing for Latushkin. But it was 1-0 from at that point. And then what happens? The Canadiens get a little sloppy. They allow an odd-man rush going back the other way. Sam Montembault gets caught. One of the few mistakes he made in the hockey game, just off the post a little too far. And who has the puck on his stick? Jamie Benn. He scores. And now Montembault, here's the reason why he did this, is because previously Jamie Benn had a similar chance and he shot it to his left pad side. So this time he went right blocker, fooled the goaltender, tied it at 1-1. But Montembault continued to flash the leather throughout the hockey game, playing extremely well. And for the lack of energy, there were just a handful of guys that really had their legs tonight. David Savard back in the lineup. I don't know about you guys, but he looked lethargic. He wasn't moving. He was deciding to flip the puck out of the zone instead of making crisp passes like he normally would. It just didn't look like David Savard should be in the lineup, and I think he was rushed a little bit just because of the fact that James Struble really wasn't playing that well. That being said, he wasn't really a liability per se, but I didn't like it because when you flip the puck out, as I say time and time again, all you do is give it up to the opponent and he'll skate it back the other way. It was what it was. Savard wasn't a liability. He blocked a couple of shots, so good on him. And he's still nursing that upper body injury. When they showed him on the ice at the Bell Center a couple of days ago in his tracksuit, he didn't look comfortable. And so to bring that guy back into the lineup, still looking the same way, I mean, somebody needs to have their head examined on the Montreal Canadiens, or at least, you know what? Call up somebody if you're not going to trust Jaden Struble. Do something, but don't bring in David Savard to hurt the club. Now, Lane Hudson was Lane Hudson. Doesn't matter how many minutes this kid plays, he still looks like he's got a bundle of energy. Played very well on both sides of the puck, again, stopping a 2-on-1 late in the hockey game. I mean, Lane Hudson is just continuing to impress me. And so these teams go tied into the shootout. And actually, I should say before that, in overtime, Monty made a big save off Jason Robertson to keep the game tied. for it to go to a shootout. And then they go to the shootout, and what happens? They go high on Monty. Not once, but twice. The first shot beat him off the stick again of Jason Robertson over the glove. And then the second one beat him over the glove again, but hit the crossbar and came down, and luckily did not go into the net. But the Canadiens couldn't score, and that led to the Dallas 2-1 victory. And now, say what you will. There are a lot of guys that deserve some credit in this hockey game, starting with Patrick Laine, the winner of the Molson Cup. He scores the power play goal, but that was just one thing he did on the ice. He was throwing the body, absolutely obliterated Beck along the boards at one point. And, Patrick Laine is a big boy. You don't expect him to throw the body. Maybe Beck pissed him off, but one way or the other, he clopped him. Josh Anderson throwing the body at certain points of the hockey game. Yoel Armia, strong along the boards. It wasn't like anything really changed as far as the style of play was concerned, but I think the fatigue and the travel really started to get to the Canadiens. Not that they're going to use that as an excuse, but it's just what I saw. And so, give them full marks because the effort was there. The legs were not, unfortunately. But it is what it is. The Canadiens they got another point, which is great. And I will bring up the actual standings for a second because I want to see where they are right now, because not only were they in a wild card spot, which they are not in right now, they're 2 points behind Columbus with a game in hand, but they're also a couple of points behind the Boston Bruins, 3 points, in fact, behind the Boston Bruins with 2 games in hand. So they're continuing to creep up the standings despite the fact that, they just had this happen to them. And the schedule, as it were, may not look very favorable for the Canadiens, still with that 1-1 travel schedule, which I think is absolute, for lack of a better term, bullshit. But, they play Dallas tonight. Then they travel to Utah. They travel to Dallas. They come back home to play the Toronto Maple Leafs. Who in the world makes this schedule for the Canadiens? Honestly, they've been traveling nonstop. If it wasn't Chicago during that long road trip, which they played 6 games on, then they come back home. They play the Canucks. They go back on the road. They play Washington. They come back home. They play Dallas. They go back on the road to play Utah and Dallas, and then they come back home to play Toronto. What the hell? Who's the idiot? Because I don't understand. There should be some kind of consistency where, if you're going to travel, make it a couple of games. That's what they're doing here at the tail end. But, 1-1, just in time for you to be able to rest a little bit, and you have to travel again. And for those of you that are used to traveling by plane, you know all too well that, you're cramped, your legs aren't stretched out, and you need your legs to play the game. So if you're continuously traveling back and forth in a plane, what's going to happen? Your legs are going to cramp up. You're not going to be as loose as you normally are. This has to stop. So the Canadiens now are going to be off for the next couple of days. They may very well travel to Utah a day early just to be able to get their game legs, having a morning skate, and be ready to play the Utah Hockey Club on Tuesday. But, again, this hockey game tonight pushed the Canadiens to their absolute limit physically. And so they need a little bit of a break. Tomorrow should be an off day for them. Today was an optional. A couple of guys on their skates today, that being Laine and Savard. Tomorrow, nobody skates. Nobody does anything. If they want, they should actually travel on Sunday night, be in Utah for Monday, really have their legs loose for the game on Tuesday. But, that's my opinion. But at the end of the day, got to be proud of these Canadiens. 9 out of 12. 9 wins in their last 12 games, to put it more clearly. Points, still in contention, playing a good brand of hockey, playing physical, creating scoring chances. And most of all, it's entertaining. It's not boring. And that, of course, is what we're all looking for, engagement. Because oftentimes we saw this team last year not very engaged. They're engaged right now. And if it continues, we're going to be really entertained all the way until the end of the season. Now, let's get to Monty. And now, I know what you're going to say. Coach, you're too hard on Monty. Yes, I am. I am a former goaltender, and I am tough on goaltenders. I always have been, whether it was Carey Price, Yara Halak, the list goes on and on. I've always been tough. It started with Red Light Rasico because I thought he was shit, and he should have never worn a Canadiens jersey, but it is what it is. So Here we are. Years later, Montembault. Monty is our number one goalie, and we've got to give him that respect. Tonight, he played like a number one goaltender. He was solid. He was making big saves early, sprawling when he needed to. The save he made off of Maverick Bourque was excellent. Going post to post, stretching out the leg, making that save. He made a couple of other saves later in the period, 2-3, I believe, I think it was on Jason Robertson, but I digress. Either way, the saves were big, kept the game scoreless at the end of the first. He was making glove saves, especially that overtime glove save against Jason Robertson was a thing of beauty. And the only mistake he made in regulation was that one short side goal. I was about to say shorthanded that he allowed on Jamie Benn. And that was because of what Ben had done previously. And it's one of those things that you try to teach a goaltender not to do, but Monty does it quite a bit, is that he tries to predict what a player is going to do when he shoots the puck. I got news for you. The player doesn't know what he's going to do when he's about to shoot the puck. It's the goalie that dictates what the player is going to do. And so when Monty sits back in his net, obviously the player is going to try to shoot from distance. That is mistake number one. If he's out at the top of his crease, Ben's going to try to look for a pass instead, but he didn't. Second thing he did was he shaded a little bit more towards his glove side because that's where the original shot that Ben took went. This time around, Ben went short side, picked it. Nothing Monty could do. He got beat clean. And later in the game, he didn't do anything like that. If you watched him very carefully, he was tracking the puck, following its movement, stopping it as it came in. The one thing that I really want to have him stop is the lack of rebound control. There were a couple of iffy rebounds, especially early in the first period when he was just getting his legs or whatever, getting used to the puck. That bounced off him, that created scoring chances for the Dallas Stars. I didn't like them, and I never liked them. There was another point in the third period where he caught a puck that was floating in, dropped it on the ice instead of keeping it in his glove, and then waited a couple seconds before he smothered it, almost allowing the Dallas Stars to come in and take the puck. Awareness on the ice is really what's worrying me about Montembault. It's not his style. It's not his play. When he's in position, he stops pucks. That's a given. I will not take that away from him. But like I said, it's when he's in position. When he's not in position, oh my God, he's not good. And it troubles me. And there are all things. Tonight, we didn't see the Dallas Stars go cross-crease in tight, right? And say what you will, they probably didn't do their homework because other teams have been doing it against Montembault almost all season long with success. Tonight, the Dallas Stars didn't. What they did do is shoot from the outside. They made a couple of passes through the slot, getting shots from the high slot, and Montembault was equal to the task. Why? Because he was in position, square to the shooter. He wasn't flailing, and he wasn't anticipating where the puck was going to be. He was following the puck and tracking it extremely well. When he doesn't, it's not favorable for him. He needs to be that type of goaltender. And, if you look at Jakub Dobeš, his positioning is so good, he can afford to not follow a player or lose the puck momentarily. We saw him in the game against the Capitals. The puck hit him a couple of times. He never knew where the puck was coming in, but because he was in good position, just like Jake Ottinger tonight got hit a couple of times with the puck square in the chest. Why? Because he was just square to the shot, square to the puck, and in the right position. And it hit him, and that's it. And that Dobeš was able to do that, but it never seems to me like Montembault is in position to be able to do that. I could be wrong, but it's just what I'm seeing from goaltender to goaltender. And I know you guys are going to be out there. There are a couple of you on social media that came out and actually called me out on it. And you know what? You're right. I am hard on him because I know he's a good goaltender. And the goals that he's letting in, I was like this on Carey Price. When Carey Price would let in bad goals because of lack of concentration, I'd get pissed because they're goals that don't need to go in. All you need to do is make sure you follow the puck, and away you go. And that happens more often than not to Montembault. It didn't tonight. Okay, but it does. And the other thing in the shootout that I noticed, and you can go back and look at the replay. I don't want to get copyright infringed here by any stretch, but if you look at the replay very carefully, Montembault's in good position, and just as Robertson's about to release the puck, his glove hand drops, opening up the top corner. And I don't know if it's a reflex, for him to just bring it down, thinking that he wants to close that area just above the pad that people normally shoot at, which theoretically is good logic, but it looks like Robertson knew he was going to do it, and he put it top shelf. And then I forget who the second shooter was. Bear with me a second as I look at it. Come on, computer. But the second shooter was Johnston, and he did the exact same thing, except he hit the crossbar. The puck dropped in behind Monty, hit him inside, as I break my mic, inside the blocker, and then fell down where he could kick it away. He's playing percentages, and that's okay. In a shootout, you're pretty much playing percentages one way or the other. It's not something that he did throughout the game because you saw him. He was gloving the puck very easily during the game. So I'm not going to fault him for the shootout. Nobody should. He's normally very good in the shootout, and he was tonight as well, covering what he was supposed to be covering. The Dallas Stars shooters were just that accurate. And the team, despite the fact that, they played relatively well, they need to be able to keep that energy up for 60 minutes. Why didn't they have the energy? Here's a thought. The Molson Cup presentation given to the most valuable player in every month of the season. Tonight, it was Patrick Laine for the month of December. But let me ask you a question. When was the last time the Montreal Canadiens won when the Molson Cup was presented on Bell Center Ice? Do you remember? Because I sure as hell don't. It just seems that every time that bloody trophy hits the ice, the Canadiens don't win. And more often than not, when that trophy's on the ice, it's because the Canadiens just got back from a road trip and it's being presented. They're never home when that fucking thing's presented. I hate to tell you. But, it is what it is. We are a superstitious bunch, hockey fans. Some people, they have to wear a particular jersey. Others have a ritual before games, as do players. Hell, I know in the playoffs when the Canadiens are in deep, tuna salad is my go-to food. I even brought a Tupperware of it on CBC TV once when they were interviewing me. So, I'm true to my superstitions, that's for sure, because I believe in them. And they normally work. But is this really a superstition? Is the Molson Cup a jinx or a curse or whatever you want to call it? I don't think so. I think Canadians just didn't have it in them tonight to win this hockey game, despite the fact they did come away with a point. But you tell me. Put it in the comments. You can put it on social media when I post the show up. Let me know. Is the Molson Cup a curse? I think maybe. You might think no. Depends on, one, what your nationality is, because I know that people from the Mediterranean tend to believe in curses a little bit more. Like the evil eye, or in Italian, the Maloicchio, stuff like that. So, we tend to be a little bit more superstitious than most. Gypsies are too. Turkish people are as well, I believe. English and French, not so much. But at the end of the day, do you believe it's a curse? Hit me up down low and let me know. Now, tomorrow night, I'm not going to be broadcasting because I am doing play-by-play for the Hawkesbury Knights at 3:45. So the game will filter down into my normal broadcast or recording time. So I'll be back on Monday. But in the meantime, if you do want to listen to me on Sunday, if you have a subscription to Flow Hockey, where most of you do to watch the AHL, please find the Hawkesbury Knights on Flow Hockey and listen in. And you know what? I take criticism all the time. Steve Traynor, a very good, an old friend of mine, and we haven't seen each other in quite some time. He actually brought John Bartlett to one of my games when I was working for the Hawkesbury Hawks because Dave Jackson's son, Ryan, was playing for the Hawks at the time. And Bartz was standing right behind me as I was doing the play-by-play. And as Steve came up next to me to wave, to let me know he was there, I waved back. He pointed behind me, and I turned to see Bartz and was nervous for the rest of that period. John seemed to think I did a pretty good job, but I could tell you, when you have somebody that does games on national TV standing behind you, listening in, the nerves start to go. And so, thank you to John for the kind comments afterwards, but, I was still nervous one way or the other. And, it's just one of those things I like to do is play-by-play. And I like getting other people's feedback. Parents give me feedback, but they're biased because, it is what it is. But I'd like to hear from you. So if you do have a Flow Hockey account and you are listening in, Fire off the comments afterwards on social media. Let me know. You can hit me up on BlueSky at costapapulios.bsky.social or on the Montreal Hockey Talk Facebook page. One way or the other. I'd like to know what you think. But we'll see you guys on Monday night. Bye for now.